Welcome, guys. Welcome back to Spitball Experts. It's been a couple of weeks, right, since our last one.
Yeah, I think 3 weeks.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. So my name is Dirk. I live in Switzerland. It's a country with very interesting COVID rules, and I come from South Africa, and I love to talk. Sometimes a lot of nonsense, sometimes sense. It's just one of those things.
It's usually between the nonsense that some sense comes out. So
exactly. You need to filter through it.
Yeah. So Dirk, you said that you're currently in Switzerland, the country with the weird COVID rules. Clearly, you are not in South Africa, where we just make up rules every day as we go. Anyway,
the motherland.
The motherland. Anyway, yeah. So hello, everybody. My name is Arnold. I am still living in South Africa, the country that's just very interesting. But we still love the country. We still enjoy it. And so today we're going to be talking about a very, very interesting topic. But before we get to that topic, I just want to remind you guys that you can go and like us also on Instagram. That is where most of our stuff will be. And then links to everything will be there. Yes. We're going to say it at the end again, but let's just say it now for those of you that are only going to listen for like the first 2 minutes. So let's just slide that in there. So yeah.
If you're a 2-minute listener, please subscribe. Please just like us. It will help us. Just do all of that things. Keep the conversation going. Yes. Just keep a conversation going. So
and comment, like, tell us what you like and what you don't like. Oh no, rather just tell us what you like, then tell us what you don't like. Otherwise, we're going to be crying in the shower where no one can see our tears. So, but yeah.
Our shower is small. I think our neighbors will hear me. So, yeah. So I'll cry somewhere else.
Please.
So
so let's get to the topic.
Today's topic's cool. I mean, it's been a year since COVID broke out, and things went haywire for a lot of us. You guys were in a lockdown for like ages.
We were.
I mean, basically, we were in almost like a rehab center. No alcohol, no.
I think so.
Yeah.
No cigarettes, no booze.
Yeah.
Nothing.
That's
no hope.
No hope. Whoa!
It's like in South Africa, if you take away the alcohol, there's no hope left for the country. So.
Man, that was crazy. But yeah, we'll step into that later.
Anyway.
So today we talk about, you guessed it, COVID. But we are not talking about today. I think it's good to just talk about the fear COVID creates. What it does was us, because man, I've been around a lot of people, and I also saw in myself how COVID just brings so much conflicting feelings up within me. One of the guys I know, he tested positive for COVID, and I spent time with him, and oh my word, and I was like, oh, do I have it? Do I don't have it? Like, do I have a scratchy throat? Don't. It's like, and in the end, I had to say, why are you so afraid? But still, like, there's so much information out there about this sickness. There's so much, just not so much clarity about what's going on to a certain extent. Now with I almost called it a dart, but with the vaccine coming out, to get vaccinated, that got a lot of Christian crowds rattled up, and my goodness.
Yeah, suddenly everyone knows what's happening in Revelation, and I think everyone's become a conspiracy theorist because for some way 5G is also in this. I think let's carry on before we carry on that little train.
There's so many conspiracy theories out there, right?
Yeah. But Dirk, I have to say, seeing as we're talking about this topic, I have to say that let's just look at the past year and a half, okay? So basically 2 years ago, we were, not 2 years ago, November, a year and a half ago, let's say that, we were exposed to this virus all throughout the world. And then suddenly it was always there. Like, it was never here. I know in South Africa, it's like, it wasn't here. it's like when America says they're going to have to save the world, it's always just North America they think.
It's like
but
New York.
It's like, yeah, it's like just New York or California or San Francisco or something like that. Exactly. But it's with COVID, it was always there. It was always just in Asia. It was China. It was that type of stuff. It was always far away.
You are so right.
Exactly. Suddenly it hits home. It's here. It's in South Africa. It's in our homes. It's everywhere. And it's like someone has broken into our house, each of our houses, if I can put it that way. Now, suddenly we're in such fear because all the security we had is gone. All the reassurance we had that it can't be is gone.
Hey man, I remember my father phoning me up when we had like 15 cases in Switzerland, and he was like, "Yeah, that's something that only happens in like in Europe or in like Asia, but in South Africa." No chance. And like, yeah, I think maybe not. Like,
and then South Africa made like the top 5 of the most infected countries in the first wave. It's like,
it is so hilarious. So
yeah,
but I understand it. I mean, if you look at South Africa historically, you see a lot of, I mean, bird flu, all that stuff was in South Africa, but very contained. So I understand a little bit of arrogance. To say, well, this will never hit us. I mean, last year, this time we were in France and they had like they had 15 cases. And I was like sitting on the subway in Paris and thinking, yeah, this might be something. This is really hitting home. But I had no fear for it. It's like, yeah, we need to wash hands, whatever. And
do our part. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the lockdowns happened and I see this thing is, you said it so nicely, like people's existential needs all of a sudden were really almost from one day to the next, people were in home office or had no job, and their existential needs became vulnerable. That's what I was looking for. And man, that does something to the human being. I don't know how was it for you guys in South Africa? What did you recognize in the psyche of the people down there? Like, because when I visited over Christmas, it was quite interesting to see people going crazy about Corona and see how deep, what a deep impact COVID had, or this lockdown had, on people's psyche. But I really want to.
Honestly, I can't really speak on behalf of everyone else. I can speak on behalf of myself and my wife and what happened here. And I think, honestly, it was something of there was a split within South Africa. South Africa loves to split things just unconsciously. So there was a split of the people that said, listen, this is fine, we'll carry on, we'll work from home. And then there was the other splits of people that it became a massive psychological problem for them, this massive mental issue for them, because it felt like we were locked up and we couldn't do anything. We couldn't go anywhere. I mean, even in South Africa with the provinces, we couldn't travel to another province. We couldn't visit family. We couldn't do anything like that. And suddenly we were forced into kind of like this enclosure of our homes. I mean, for us, we stay on the 5th floor of a flat. And
so is it like a shoebox? Is it like an apartment with like a lot of rooms?
No, it's like a shoebox. So, and then suddenly we were forced into this lockdown where we heard, okay, well, we're going to be at home for 2 weeks. So let's see what happens. Mentally, that became this thing of, listen, we are starting to crave other human beings. We're starting to crave going out into the public world. And people started, I think to an extent later on, they started to realize and appreciate more of the smaller things of, like, if you're in South Africa, and Dirk, you will know these stores, but like it would start becoming an adventure to go to Woolies or to go to Checkers or...
So just to hop in there, if you're listening from either part of the world, that like if you're from England or something, that's like Marks and Spencer's. If you're like from America, that's like Tesco's or like Walmart,
Target.
And if you're listening from Switzerland, that's like Migros Coop. That's kind of like how we can.
Yes. So basically your grocery shop, let's put it that way.
That would have been an easier one.
Yeah. And I remember the one day so another major, I want to say grocery shop or grocery store here in South Africa is called Fruit and Veg City, or Food Lovers Market rather. But this was like, if you want to buy fresh produce or stuff like that, this is the shop you go to. And I remember the one day I was so excited to go to the store because suddenly it's this big store and there's so many people, and it was still like just 50 people in the store, but it was so many people and it was so great. And we would like go to, I know some of the people I know, we would go to a store again because it was just essential services, essential shops open. You would go there and you would be like, listen, let's meet up in that aisle and we'll just have a quick chat for 5 minutes. Just to crave something. We started craving other companionship or other people. But later, and I know for us, I mean, my wife got sick from COVID last year in November. And then we were kind of forced into another lockdown, another isolation. And that, honestly, that broke me mentally completely. It started creating, because now my wife is sick. I'm not sick. I've tested negative. She tested positive. Now in this little shoebox, we had to split. So she was in the room, I was in the lounge. And for 2 weeks, we couldn't really go out into the world to other people. And that broke me mentally because suddenly, now listen, I'm feeling deprived of basic human needs. I couldn't go to work. I couldn't do anything like that. And I think that was kind of like the trend for many South Africans, especially now during the second wave we experienced, is a lot of people were, as you said, like earlier, you get a little anxious for whatever reason, you get a little stressed, and then you feel like, listen, you're struggling with your breathing, so now you have COVID. Or you have a scratchy throat, and it's like, okay, but now I have COVID.
So many psychosomatic things, right? Like it's so
exactly
crazy.
And 2 days, maybe just the last point, 2 days ago, I listened to this interview on the radio on my way to work, and the guy said something that kind of sums this up so perfectly. He said, COVID isn't just a physical pandemic. It's not that. I mean, COVID has become a mental and a psychological and an emotional pandemic and a spiritual pandemic more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're seeing an increase in mental instability. We're seeing an increase in suicide attempts or suicides. We're seeing an increase in, I want to say, hopelessness on so many levels of people wanting to be booked into rehabs and stuff like that. And I think in South Africa, that's happened a lot.
Yeah, and I think that is a good point you're touching on, like hopelessness. And maybe I want to take a quick turn at church. I think at the moment, all these conspiracy theories and all the dreaded time stuff is just not helping. Listen, if you want to read Revelations, read it. It's a great book because it's a book about hope.
Read it with an open heart. Don't read it with a conspiracy in mind.
Oh my goodness, man! The other day I heard a sermon. It was terrible. Like just it wasn't even out of Revelations. It was just about It came out of Mark, and it was just terrible. In the sense of hey, God decided COVID's going to happen, so he's also the culprit and perpetrator for COVID. And it's like, whoa, that escalated quickly.
Suddenly God is the one that's wrong.
Yeah. So I mean, this creates a big spiritual problem for our dispensationalist literalists that love to interpret everything one-to-one and decided this is what John wrote about and might not be. But yeah, I just see people have time. They get scared.
Yeah.
What's going to happen? Is Jesus going to come? Is Jesus not going to come? Which is in any case an open question. We don't know. There's this planet that will know. But I do think that hope, we are called to give hope to people in the sense that Jesus died for everything and he's in the midst of this for us, with us. So I think it becomes a very interesting. Some Christians I don't want to hang out with because of their interesting ideologies.
And if we can maybe just say it, I think the biggest psychological issue, spiritual issue, is being caused by some Christians, because suddenly there's a big focus on religion as well within this pandemic, and people are looking for answers, and many people turn to the church and turn to religion and whatever it is, and then they turn to people that aren't necessarily the right people. I know that sounds very harsh maybe, but I think because I'm hearing so many conspiracies coming from Christians that aren't even based on word or the scripture. Then they say, no, this is what the scripture says. It's like you read the scripture, it's like, that's not at all what it says. I mean, and we need to delve deeper and not just look for a quick answer.
And I think that's a problem. And I think that's it. This pandemic plays straight into the literalists' ideology of, hey, you just apply it like a math equation. You just put 1 to 1 and then fantastic, we have it. And I think that within lies the problem. But there's people coming to faith. There's people still accepting Jesus. There's people there's a lot of people that sorted out some family issues. Within all of this, we see how God is moving, and I think that is what I really want to touch on today, is coming to the point where we realize that maybe our security, and you definitely touched on that, the security, the fake sense of security we built up for ourselves is literally crumbling down, and I think that is just, we are facing the brutality of this world. In a sense, that security is just maybe an euphoric idea, but that which we have, Jesus,
even with it,
so much more. Which I
think that's the thing, is I think that's why a lot of people are grasping towards the concept of, let's say, conspiracies or the fear aspect or whatever it is, because it's something we can tangibly feel and experience or see or do something like that. I think when we look at hope in a time such as this, it's, if we don't know where hope comes from, because let's be honest, many people look at hope and then they feel like, it's like when you watch, what is that movie, The Blind Side, okay? And you see this guy, suddenly his whole life is changing and you experience this warm, bubbly feeling inside. And it's like, you really hope that he makes it and he gets into the college and he gets a family and all of that.
I take it you watched The Blind Side.
A while ago, it just came to mind now. But it's like, when people look at hope, what do we look for? I mean, I'm asking myself that question each day now, is when I'm looking for hope, what am I looking for exactly? Am I looking for a feeling on the inside to make me feel a bit better? Or do I just realize it might be indigestion and heartburn and I stop looking for feelings? But because hope is more than that. Hope is so much more in that sense of saying, listen, it's not just a feeling in the inside, it's a conviction that I know that, listen, even though stuff is going on here that I can't control, the good will come. A book that I actually just finished reading today from Craig Rochelle is that Hope in the Dark book, where he speaks from, if I mispronounce his name, please forgive me, but from the book of Habakkuk. And that book in the Old Testament is 3 chapters long. And you get the first chapter where stuff is going wrong. Second chapter, he starts realizing what's going on. And in the third chapter, he finds his hope within God and what that looks like. And that entire book it's a very good book to read in a time like this, because it starts showing us what hope looks like. Because I think many people don't know what hope looks like, even if we tell them, look for hope in God.
Yeah, it's something that Matt Chandler also said a couple of weeks ago, is that we don't know how to lament anymore. So basically coming down to the point where we don't know where to cry out anymore and go, man, this is so frustrating. This is just so and just not great. My experience at the moment is not fantastic. And I mean, that's why we have the book of Lamentations. I mean, the word's literally in there. And you have some lamenting Psalms of David. And it's just something that I think maybe modern Christianity struggles with a whole, hello church, so great for you. And that's all good. But I think we somehow created a false sense of what we should be like. Always happy, always upbeat, always ready. God is so good and so kind. And then this happens. And we don't know how to lament, to sit down and go, man, Jesus, we really not just need you, but this is what's going on. Let's have a conversation. And I think that is what Habakkuk is also just really about, just seeing how he grapples with the situation around him to the point where it's nerve-wracking because you don't know if this guy is even mentally stable.
I think a lot of us are asking that question about ourselves now. So.
Hey, but that happened to me last week. Where I sat down and I went, whoa, there's so much uncertainty. I don't know what is right and wrong. Maybe to give you a little bit feedback, like a little bit backdrop into the situation. We're not allowed to meet more than 5 people, but the church can be open with 50 people. And that just was, to me, that was a conflict of feelings. There's like, on the one hand, the government says this, but there's this rule that we can still go out, although my non-Christian friends and family members can't go out in maybe not family members, but they can't go out and party or whatever. But not that I'm saying church is the same as a party. It's just the effect.
It's a gathering. It's a social gathering type of thing.
How do I justify it in the end? And that was a massive conflict within me, and also just had to sit down and say, Jesus, I can't handle this. Like, I really can't. This is too much. It's really too much. But I think maybe that's the thing that I want to come down to today, is that lament. Go down, lament a bit, write it down, throw it in the fire if you have to, but sit down with Jesus, have a heart-to-heart, just cry out and go, well, this is just the situation. Because I think a lot of people sit in a situation and go, I have no place to go. We're all kind of in the same boat, but not really. So whom do I talk to? Who do I not talk to? To really also just open your room and say, well, this is the baggage, Jesus, and I'm sure his shoulders is big enough to carry it. And I think that is what I mean with go to Jesus with it.
I think a big thing with that is a lot of people, like I spoke to someone today as well, you find people who are just in a place where they say, listen, this is really stupid. They are over this now. They really just hope that this vaccine can come so they can get it, so they can carry on with life. And then you get the other people who are starting to ask themselves, okay, but when it comes to this, how should I feel about this? You go to God with this. You go to God with the uncertainty. You pray. You speak to God. You, as you say, you lament. You get all this stuff out, but still, sometimes it feels like nothing changes on the inside, on the outside. And I think many times we think, listen, let's just do it now and do it once, and then it's done. And I think something of the lamenting was, in that time, it was something of, listen, I'm being so open and so direct now with God that it doesn't matter what I say now, I have to get this out. Because let's be honest, if you are honest with God, like you truly are in your heart, okay, like whatever you're feeling in your heart, you get that out, you speak to God about that, things will look a lot different. Because sometimes we just share a little bit of things with God and we say, listen, I am lamenting now, I'm telling God, listen, this isn't great, but that's not how we're truly feeling. I think the moment that we start becoming truly open with God, I mean, honestly, God created us. He knows what's going on in our hearts. His word says it. I mean, do we really think we can take him by surprise with stuff? So why not be open with God? Exactly. And I think sometimes it feels that we're being disrespectful to God, but that's not, I mean, the prodigal son is always such a good example of this. Of, listen, he's there to welcome you with open arms. We just need to be able to go to him and actually speak to him and be vulnerable with him. Because that's what the son did. He was vulnerable with his father.
Yeah, and I think it's so important, especially in this time, to realize it's a process. It's not going to be, now I lamented for 5 minutes and now it's going to be great. I think it's a process, because I think prayer has sometimes more to do with us than with God. where prayer starts to change us from the inside over time, and really we have time to also reflect about our thoughts and to go, well, man, I'm really, really helpless. But I think the encouragement lays within that God will really meet you there. And I think what you said is also so important, like, be honest, be brutally honest, because if you can't be honest with God and yourself, with whom are you then going to be honest? I really do hope people, this is encouragement to people, and I really hope that if you're listening, that you really go and talk to someone, or just lament in your room for a bit about COVID and the uncertainty it causes. And maybe we should take time off from conspiracy theories and online presence, and just enjoy a little bit of just nothingness from all the social media nonsense.
The beginning of this year, I think it was beginning of this year, I actually told my wife I want to take off for social media just for 2 weeks. Okay, so it makes it a bit difficult, seeing as a lot of my work for my business runs on social media. But I want you to take off for social media for 2 weeks, simply because of the fact that there's so much hatred and so many bad things going on social media. With all we see is COVID. Everywhere we go, it's COVID. All we hear, or we experience, or we know is this is COVID. And the moment we experience something different than that, it's like this little spark within us. And then we start questioning, okay, but how long is this going to stick? Like, we're starting to see how so many people are dying because of this or related to this. And then I start asking myself, okay, but why do I want to keep on being on social media, looking at stuff that's upsetting, and then I take that home and then I make that my truth, when it's not necessarily the truth?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. It's difficult. I mean, what we've heard the last year is COVID, Black Lives Matter, storming of the Capitol, so many weird things happening.
I mean, that bombing over in where was it? But
the explosion in Beirut, and then there's still wars. I mean, it's a lot. I understand when people go, man, what the hell? Like, I
just want to go and stay in the rainforest in a little hut for now.
Just want to crawl in my bed and like just do nothing. But I think the experience is just, hey, have conversations, but most of all, start with having a conversation with Jesus about what's going on, and then move on from there. This world will make us crazy if we constantly focus or put the world at the center of everything we do. I think we will change everything, or we'll change the trajectory of our ideas, and our psyche, when we start putting Jesus at the center.
Maybe just a question on that, and we don't necessarily need to discuss it, but I was thinking of it this morning. What do we define as truly putting God at the center?
Oh, that's a good question.
I mean, if we truly say that God is at our center, what do we define that as for each individual? Because that is a very tough question to answer. And I think COVID has brought that into our lives much more than we realize, that we realize how much we need God, but do we actually focus on God? Because I can say I'm praying and I'm trusting God, but do I actually spend time with him? Do I actually become more like him? Do I actually exhibit his glory? Do I actually show him? Do I actually learn about, do I actually step into a relationship with him? Or am I dependent on another person for that? And it's just something. Exactly. And I mean, I was so caught up with that question this morning when I went to work, because it was just a thing of, okay, but if for myself as a husband, if I say that I am keeping God at the center, what am I reacting towards? How am I looking at life? If my wife says this and she's focusing just on Christ, doesn't matter what's going on around, what does that look like for her? Because what it looks like for her doesn't necessarily look like that for me. And we need to understand that, and we need to grow in that. In what does God actually look like when he's at the center?
Such a great question. would you mind if we pick it up next time and we discuss?
Yeah, no, please. This is that's a much longer discussion.
But I think that is really what COVID needs to do, is instead of pushing us away from Jesus, to push us more into Jesus, and to go, well, then let me ask those questions. Let me sit down and let's have a discussion about it. So I think it's a great place to leave this conversation there with COVID and all its uncertainty. And then we'll definitely pick it up next time with what does Christ-centeredness mean for us?
Yeah.
What does that look like in our lives?
Great
question. Great talk. It's always interesting talking to you, man. Enjoy it. If you have any, if you have any ideas, or if you have any things you want to add to the discussion, please drop us a comment below on our YouTube channel, or write us an email. Someone will answer it, or we'll answer it here on the channel. Who knows? But keep the conversation going. Arnold, where can they like us, hear about us?
So I think the biggest place is, obviously, we are on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify as well, and I think pretty much every single place you can find a podcast we are currently on, and also on YouTube for the video and stuff like that as well. But you can obviously follow our social media at Spitball Experts as well. Please go and like it, go and subscribe to our YouTube channel, share it with someone. Even if you just subscribe it and never listen, that's fine. Just subscribe.
It will help us a lot.
It will. And I think this is, I think the best place is for that. We will respond as soon as we can. It's usually quite quick. If you've got suggestions for anything that we can talk about, once again, on our channel on YouTube as well, in the comment section, or on Instagram, we are available there. Yeah.
So until next time.
Cool. Bye.